We are back on the Drift Gia project yet again, which is a Porsche 944 chassis that we put a carbon Gia body over top of and slapped a Volkswagen 07K engine into that we also turboed. Last week, we got the intercooler solidly affixed to the chassis, so now it's time to make sure the nose has a way for the air to go into the intercooler so we can actually get the nose back onto the car and move on to some other things. Because I cannot wait to hear this car rip. Let's dig in. Man, I'll tell you guys what, now that this whole front end is nicely painted and everything else, the nose that we're working on looks a little rough compared to that. So I think we need to work on that this week. So I've already plotted how I want the window of the intercooler opening to look. However, this is just the rough square. And many of you have commented saying that we should radius the corners, which I 100% agree with. And we're gonna do that today. So if we're gonna get air to the front of that intercooler, we're gonna need to get creative. Well, it's not that creative. We're just gonna make some stuff. You see, with the nose installed, we have an air gap like out to about here that we need to fill with a duct that will actually funnel the air through the intercooler instead of letting it bleed around the intercooler. So the first step here is gonna be cutting a giant hole into this nose that we can't go back from. Let's do it. First off, we gotta pull off the front spoiler mounting we have going on here. Obviously, this thing is in pretty rough shape because it's just roughed in. I think we're gonna end up 3D printing this front spoiler and not making it metal. I might finish it in metal first and then scan it and then we'll do something with it. But I think it's important to note that a drift car is covered in consumable body parts. So I need to keep that in mind with things I make, especially things that are close to the ground, that they're probably gonna end up getting replaced because I hit things. Nose without being on the ground. I mean, that'll work. I've got my jellyfishing glasses on, so you know it's business time. Wow, I really butchered that, didn't I? But before I cut anything, let's make this radius first. No, that's not enough. Yeah, it's better. I was gonna use a hole saw for this, but I don't have a hole saw this big, so we'll just cut it by hand. Yeah. All right, that'll do. Let's put it on the car and see how it fits. It still fits, holla. And it looks really cool. We can see the intercooler and brackets through there. I think it looks awesome. Also, you'll notice this nice haze that's all over the nose. Tony had the nose pretty close by when he was painting Jigsaw's engine.
Yep.
He's gonna try to absolve his sins right now.
Oh, please. When you come in at 2:30 a.m. to paint an engine block, then you can start showing me how to do it.
I mean, I've been here pretty early many days, but not to paint an engine block. You're right. That's very oddly specific of you.
It is. It's not coming off, Ryan. We might have to get out another can of Coca-Cola Red.
Can't have anything nice. The car won't be red when we're done anyway, so what's the matter? You call it Coca-Cola red, I call it thumbnail red. Gosh, this car looks so good. Now for the next step. Time to use my favorite 3D scanner. Big shout out to revopoint for sponsoring this week's video. Inside these two boxes is the revopoint Track It. Now I've used this scanner on this channel before. However, the model I had was pre-production, but now in our hands, we have the final production model. That was supposed to be a really cool reveal, but I forgot the scanner's underneath here. The final production model. So I'm gonna get all this set up, and then I'm gonna walk through the process of scanning the front end of this car, particularly the intercooler area, because we're gonna 3D print the front duct work for the intercooler. Provided my CAD skills that are very amateur are up to the task, which I'll go over how I do that as well. Inside these two cases is the complete set you need to 3D scan. In this case, we have the tripods, we have the external tracking cameras, and also we have this calibration stick, which is basically a bunch of witchcraft to calibrate this thing, but it's pretty much all automated, so Thumbs up to that. And then this box has the calibration board holder. We got tracking dots. We got these heads that are actually motorized, and they move around when you're doing the calibration and other things, which is really cool. These go on top of the tripods. We have the calibration board and the wires that we need to get this thing working. Some other odds and end components. And of course, the 3D scanner itself, which reminds me of the monitor from Halo. Freaking love this thing. It's so easy. Each cable goes to its matching colored slot, so I don't think it can be any more dummy proof. I love that. Blue cable goes to the computer. The black cable goes to the scanner itself. This yellow cable's just for calibration, so I'm not gonna use it right now. They include this cable as well that goes from this gimbal to the tracker head here. Again, I'm not gonna be using that right now because I'm not doing any kind of calibration. So I'll turn this on. Scanner's on. I like to leave it in this box when I'm not using it directly so it's not getting damaged. Let's see if it thinks my computer's fast enough. Average CPU. Oh, come on, I got a Ryzen 9, baby. Come on, my 47's gotta be better than average. Good. That's better than average. Green lights here mean the tracker is hooked up and functioning, and we've got green on the scanner as well because that's hooked up and functioning. Before I start scanning, however, I just wanna get the front of the car jacked up before I have to scan against the floor, basically, and make it a little bit easier. So the way the system works is as long as these two cameras over here can see the scanner, it should not lose tracking. And all these reflective dots on all sides of the scanner ensure that. These cameras are tracking these dots at all times in a 3D space. So I'm gonna face these cameras from my work area, I'm gonna scan with the scanner, and we'll have a 3D model to build off of. The resemblance is uncanny, isn't it? Get my point cloud. Let's fuse it and see how it looks. It's honestly amazing to me after using so many different 3D scanners that this scanner just doesn't lose tracking because it has the external camera. So I was able to even like stop scanning by like walking away and come back mid-scan without even pausing it, and it just keeps going correctly and doesn't lose alignment, which is incredible to me. Those who have used early 3D scanners that don't have external tracking and have tracking issues, you know. Yeah, that looks great, and I was able to get the intercooler face, which is what I needed. Excellent. Now what I like to do is go up here to isolation, click on that, and pick a rate. We'll do 15% first. And it'll pick up anything that is 15% isolated and not attached to the main body. So all these like floating little NURBs that we don't need, like down there for example. I'll have to make them red to show you what's going to delete. Now, it is getting rid of like the bracket up top here, which I don't really know if I want to get rid of that. So what I'll do is I'll cancel that. I'll change this to maybe like, let's go like 11 and see what it does. That's better. Now that bracket's there, and then I'll just hit apply. And then I'll clean it up a bunch. Now it looks even better. That is plenty good for me to work off of in Fusion. And because of the external tracking camera, I was able to do this scan with the nose on. I was originally going to scan with the nose off, and then scan with the nose on, and then layer the scans on top of each other so I get inside and outside in high detail. But because of the tracking camera being able to get up underneath the car without losing tracking, I was able to get the information I needed without having to do double scans, which saves a lot of time. Now that the scan's done, let's go up to the studio. I have it imported into Fusion. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut down what I don't need to make it easier to model, because all I really need to know is this opening right here and the intercooler face itself. That's cut down pretty good. Now I can see the intercooler from most angles. There's some artifacts floating, but I don't care about those. Now we'll begin modeling this. I'm not sure whether I'm going to do solid modeling or surfacing. Probably gonna try a little bit of both and see what I can come up with. I'm an amateur, so bear with me. What I ended up doing was surfacing the intake, and well, I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't my best work, but this is the first time I've surfaced something like this, and I think it came out kinda okay. The edges of the flange are a little wiggly, which I'm not super happy on. I think I'm just gonna print this as it is for now and see how it comes out. Probably reprint it with some help from Juan when he's back from being out of the country to see if he can give us a hand with smoothing this out, because I probably overcomplicated it in the way I made it, but that's just the nature of the beast. As they say, it's typically better to learn when you're in a situation like this and just kind of force yourself to make something because you have to, than just kind of doing it willy-nilly. So it's functional. It's not the most beautiful piece in the world, but it's functional, I think. Let's print it and see how it comes out. It's time to bust out the big boy printer. I'm gonna use the Elegoo Orange Storm Giga for this so I can print it all in one piece. The build volume is much bigger than the other printers in the shop and has a 0.6mm nozzle, so it should go pretty quick. Matter Hackers gave us 10 kilogram spools of their PLA Pro, which I freaking love. So I'll be using PLA for the first print because I know I'm going to do some revisions. I just want to see how this fits. I'm not going to do Pet G or anything else exotic just yet. But I've already got one of these spools ready to go here. So let's go ahead and slice the file and get it printing. Because nothing is really fully square in this, I gave it a little raft at the bottom. Yeah, we're going to start this print and see how it goes. There it is. You can find out more on the revopoint Trackit 3D scanner and other revopoint 3D scanners through the link in the video description down below. I've been using different revopoint 3D scanners for some time now, and they have become my favorite brand for 3D scanners for affordability matched with quality. Time for a quick update on the 964 that we're turning into a coupe. Luis just got the roll bar prepped and painted. Look at that. That looks so good, if I do say so myself. And it's gonna look amazing inside the car with a full interior and of course, an actual roof. So now that he has the roll bar painted, once it's fully cured over the holiday week here, he's gonna tape it up and he's gonna work on getting the roof installed now and welded on. Then it's going back to the customer for some more work. Pull off those supports quick. Bit of an overhang issue there with these supports warping. I think it's because this roof got really cold overnight. Version 1 problems. So I definitely had a couple print issues. You can see this line right here. I think it's because the office was so cold. When it's 3D printing, the bed is heated, right? And then as it climbs up higher and higher, you're getting away from that heat. So I think as it got higher and higher away from that heat, the filament was cooling differently and it was causing it to pull upwards. And that's obvious too, because you can see like I have a gap here where this should be touching the table. So I'm gonna change how I print version 2 for sure to help fix that. That's why these lines look so compressed. But that's just nature of the beast. Let's see now how it'll fit up on the car, because that's really what matters. And I'm sure you're waiting to see that. I am too. So as I thought, the flange up top is just a little wonky. You can kind of see how it kind of just doesn't really follow the body perfect. For my first attempt ever trying this, I'm pretty stoked at that. I am not a CAD professional. I am just trying to learn it so I can use it, you know, in practical applications. And I'm pretty stoked at how it came out. No, it's not something I'd ever put on a final product for a customer, but it is something for myself that I'm proud of. And it's okay to learn and make things and have them not be perfect. And I also have an idea. There's a 3D printing filament called TPU, and it's flexible. It's like rubbery, you can use it for bushings. There's different kinds that are softer and kinds that are harder. We use the harder type for the bushings on the intercooler, for example. If I print this duct out of TPU, which makes it flexible, then it doesn't really matter that my flange is a little wonky because it'll flex in and fit perfectly because I can kind of just wobble it around and make it work. And then in the event of an accident and I hit something, that duct will flex and it won't crash into the intercooler and puncture it potentially. So that's what I'm gonna print the final one out of. And maybe I'll get that started today so that when I come in after the Christmas break, I'll have a nice new flexible duct ready for me. So that about does it for this week. It's a short week because of the Christmas holiday and we need a break.
2025 has had its challenges, but it's also had a lot of cool stuff that's happened, like starting the GIA project, getting the engine together for Jigsaw, but it's really got us wound up for 2026, where we're gonna see a lot more progress and new projects.
I may or may not have found my dream car in the United States, and we'll go over that if it all works out.
Thanks for watching, and thanks for hanging in the shop with us.